The things that we see, Vito, going on in this world, like you say, I mean, I get when I watch TV, mainly it's maybe not exactly it's another good day in the neighborhood. I did watch the movie, by the way, that came out, and it was very refreshing. But I watch stuff like Mayberry, things when the age of innocence seem to at least be healthy enough to where we could thrive in it as a society and know what fair play really was, what kindness was, how you taught others, you treated others like you'd like to be treated yourself. When I was a kid, I'm a little older than you, but I remember we were very poor. My real father left when I was only 2 months old with another woman, and of course, I was a baby of six children. So I saw the grief and the despair my mother had to go through as I got older because she didn't remarry till I was 6 years old. But then people would, my mom was never one to quote take handouts. She was a seamstress by trade. She washed and cleaned other people's clothing, whatever it took to raise six mouths to feed. And there was no welfare then; it didn't exist. And if it did, she wouldn't have accepted it. But I remember one Christmas before she married what would be my stepfather, which is a whole new other chapter in my life. There was a knock on our door. We were living in what would be called the projects now. I just called it government housing back then. It was no buzzword for it. And obviously somebody knew my mom very well because what they had done was right before Christmas. It might have even been Christmas Eve. I remember I saw my mom crying and I asked her why she was crying. She wouldn't answer me. And it's because we had nothing. We had no food. We didn't have gifts. We didn't have any food. And somebody had knocked on the door and ran. But before they ran, they obviously had put 4 boxes of food on the porch. And then she really started crying. I said, "Mom," I said, "you should be happy." She says, "I am, but I I don't I can't thank the people that wanted to do this." And I said, "Well, wouldn't you have you refused it?" She says, "Not today." So it's funny how little things like that, like this kid sticks in your mind and the agony of it. It's most of my personal experience and the revelations that's been revealed to me through the real life stories that I have to share with people, and not like we were talking before, based upon some kind of a mystery or third person storytelling that makes me believe, that makes me have the faith that I have. I shouldn't say makes me, but it causes me to feel that way. Because when the things have personally happened to other people, and I look at them and I see how blessed I am. I don't really like to use the word lucky. Maybe that's true in the lottery, but where the law of large numbers applies. But when I see other people who have suffered a lot more than I have throughout life, then I really, really do feel blessed. Uh, I'm like you. I question, well, in this country at least, we're born into freedom. And that's not by choice. We didn't choose to be here. Our parents procreated us, and here we are. But why America? Why not South America, where we were brought up in real poverty and those type of things? I don't have the answer to that. Nobody does. You know, it's just like that question of why is always there. It's always been there. As far back as you probably want to go, or maybe man looked up at the sun and wondered why it hurt his eyes to look at it. Who knows? But my book, Vito, is based upon a lot of research, first of all, and secondly, based upon real life experiences as it relates to the paranormal And there again, if you're a spiritual person, that God is a spirit himself. Um, his son did come here and clothed in flesh, but he was spirit first, flesh second. We're going to be reversed, in my opinion, or in my faith. But when you have the experiences I've had from a young child with things that people call bump in the night, because the whole Bible is about supernatural things. It does exist, because if it doesn't exist, then your whole viewpoint of God and faith are just based upon theory and conjecture and another ghost story. But it's all there. It's been practiced throughout the ages. All these things, black magic, quote, quote, white magic, whatever you want to call it. But I'm not really talking about things like that. I'm talking about things that really happened to me. In the house where we were living after my mom married my stepfather, that everybody experienced in the house, just not Mark. And then Mark had some experiences, like in the backyard. Of course, it was country. We moved out into the country when she married this guy. We had no running water, no electricity, no nothing. It was just a block building. So life was hard, but to me, it was freedom. I didn't have to fight everybody going around the corner and quote the projects, or it was a place called Rice Terrace. Everybody who is from Bristol knows where that place is. It's a very unpopular place to be around. But I knew true freedom then. But, when we moved there, a whole new paradox of things started happening. And I really believe they are evil people, like you were talking about these kids. It doesn't discriminate with age or anything. Evil is evil. And my stepfather was one of those people. And therefore, I believe there are hot spots. There certainly was at that house where evil presents itself to you without any problem. No, it doesn't walk in front of you as a fully clothed person or whatever, but it moves, it makes sounds, it has a voice. And those things in my world as a child and growing up into young adulthood existed everywhere. And I related a thing with you about a medium, a psychic, who just told me one time. I went to visit her with my father. Now, check this out. He came back to Bristol in his 70s. I never really knew my father for 45 years. And that's after the fact he moved in, and I really got to know him. But he moved in, he wanted to go see this person. And I said, okay, Dad, I'll take you. And her name was Lena Jones. She's dead and gone. I'm not saying anything bad about her. I'm just stating the truth.
Sorry, Mark. Who's Selena Jones? Is like who? What does she do?
She was a quote well-known psychic. Okay.
Oh, here we. Okay.
Okay. So there's that word. But I'm going to just tell you what happened. I took Dad up, and of course, Lena, I didn't know had known me as a child, but I didn't obviously know her because she was an older woman, as was my dad. And he kept talking to her about, where they used to live, and they lived beside them, and so on and so forth. And she kept leaning around him and looking at me. And it obviously got him his dandruff up. And he said, Lena, do you want to talk to Mark, or do you want to talk to me? She says, well, my focus is on your son, because he's got an aura about him that's just unusual. And I said, what do you mean by that? Because I wasn't even in the conversation. I was just sitting there. She says, you are going to be what people call a haunted person.
Oh, a what?
Haunted person.
Haunted?
Yes.
You're going to be haunted.
Yes, that's what she said. And I said, why? She said, because of the brilliance of your aura, the spirits are attracted to it. And that's all she said. I went and dropped my dad back off at his apartment where he was still, the lady that he left Bristol with was still with him and alive at that point. So I dropped him off, and now that I think about it, or I thought about it after the fact, I kept hearing this word it just came into my head over and over, and I knew good and well what it meant, but at the time, it confused me. I didn't know what it meant, and it was concubine, concubine, concubine.
You kept hearing concubine in your head,
Yes,
but doesn't concubine mean oh,
mistress.
yes, I was going to say something dirty, but go on. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went home, and this is how confused I was. I called my dad, and his quote wife. She picked up the phone, and I said, "Nani," I said, "Can I speak to Dad?" She said, "Well, he just went to the store after you dropped him off." And I said, "Well, I just want to find out from him what a word means." And that was back before really Google and all that stuff. And she said, "Well, what word is that? Maybe I can help you." And I said, "Concubine." She got real quiet. She says, "Maybe you better talk to your dad." Long story short, Dad came home. He called me. I told him about the word. He got real quiet. He says, "Son, I got a confession." He says, "Let me kind of get around the corner where Nani can't hear me." And I said, "Well, what is it?" He said, when you were extremely, you weren't even born yet, I don't think." He said, "I had an affair with Lena Jones, and it was ongoing." And I said, "So she was your mistress?" He says, "Yeah." So how in the world would I start picking that up? You know what I mean? It doesn't even make any
I know
sense.
there are things out there that I mean, I'm a skeptic by just over the years of looking at stuff, but there are things that I can't explain. When people tell me stuff like that, do I sit there and say, "No, you're crazy"? That would be incredibly rude and stupid to say. Um, I don't know what to say. I don't know. Um, yeah, when I hear stuff like that, it kind of I don't know what's the right word to use. Not creeps me out, but kind of throws a curveball at you,
Yeah.
and you can't explain it. But I certainly don't want to disrespect somebody by saying, "No, no, you didn't hear that. You didn't." I can't tell you what that's your life. That's what happened to you. I
Yeah.
mean, I've had really weird things happen, and if I were to explain it to somebody, they would they would just go, "Okay, either you're crazy, you're crazy, you're making it up, or it really happened." So, um, and I think out of when I did read the Bible, I used to read the Bible all the time. My favorite, um, the guy I enjoyed the most out of all of them, uh, was Doubting Thomas, because he I totally understood what he was going through. He wanted to see the wounds. He had to put his fingers in the wounds. He had to look into the eyes. He had to put his hand where the centurion put the sword in, to make sure Christ was dead. So I totally understand. And to me, I'm a doubting Thomas. I need more than just what somebody says to me. I need to see it myself and touch it. And that's just the way I am, you know. Um, but yeah, to your point, when that happened, I don't know what to say to you. Like that, that must have been that would have freaked me out. Whatever age you were at, for you to not know what concubine meant, you must have been very young, and that must have just I have no idea where you would have picked up that word. I don't even think they would even say that on TV back then. I mean, it was a, it was a different time. So yeah, I mean, stuff like that, I cannot sit there and go, no, you're lying or anything like that, or no, you misunderstood, or that's not how you move forward. You listen to what people say, and there are things out there that cannot be explained. I don't care what anybody says. Uh, there are things out there that just cannot be explained, and that's why I'm not, when people go, you're an atheist, and I'm like, no, I'm agnostic, because there are things like that when people tell me stuff like that, and I don't know you, but I know you're not lying. I hope that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it does.
So it's like, I don't know. I just wish that uh, if there is, the Almighty, that He would help out a little more. And people just don't, this day and age, they don't give a crap. They just care about get to point A to B. Again, when I told you about seeing the guy in the middle of the road in his wheelchair, and people driving by like idiots, not one stopped. It's bloody freezing out here. Not one idiot stopped to help this guy. Nobody takes the time anymore, Mark, just to, you know, yeah, I tell this to everybody. I go, once you're gone, my friend. So just try and be kind. Just try, it might be a stretch for you, but just try and be nice. And that's what Mayberry was all about, was just be kind to your neighbor. That's what terrifies me. We've lost this ability of the only way I'm going to be kind to you is if I get something out of you. And that shouldn't be the case. That should be just be kind to be kind. So I don't care if you're Christian, whatever, agnostic, whatever, just be kind to whoever. The thing that turned me off, I got into an argument with this idiot doctor. He calls himself a doctor, about, and he's a swinger. He cheated on his wife, and he thinks it's normal to have sex with everybody. And I'm like, buddy, if you didn't write as many books as you did, and go on these book tours, and have 20 million views on or 100 million views on your YouTube page, buddy, you couldn't get laid in a morgue. Okay. That's the truth. So, him telling me, this doctor telling me that, it's normal to cheat on your wife, and that's the future. And no, it's not. That's not the future. That's your future. If you want to be like that, it's your future. And that's what I mean by hollow. It's the whole, when I hear a guy that's, what's his name? Doctor, which turned me right off. Absolutely disgusted me when he said this. It was the guy that said how you could create something out of nothing. I wish Dr. Lawrence Strauss, right? An atheist that can't stand Christians, whatever. And I used to enjoy his lectures until he said something so stupid. You ever get the My dad would always say this to me. He'd always go, that guy's uh uh he's so smart, he's stupid. You know, there is such a thing as being so smart that you're stupid. And Lawrence Krauss said, hey, and this is for real, I'm not making this up. He said, you could, hey, if you love your sister and she loves you, and this could turn people off, but this is what he said. Okay. If you love your sister, she loves you, you could wear a condom. There's nothing wrong with that. And I thought that was the most disgusting. I love my sister. I'm not gonna, and I know my sister loves me. We are not gonna, that road is just absolutely um beyond disturbing. Can you give me um um a mystery in the Bible that you um okay, first, what happened at the house? Like what freaked you, anything that freaked you out at the house that couldn't be explained? Like that you knew that there was a haunting.
Well, there was so many different things, Vito, and it wasn't things that just happened to me. Me and my sister Patty, who is deceased now, she and I were the last of the six kids. When Mom got married, I was a not supposed to happen kid anyway. So there's quite a stretch between years between me and my, for example, my oldest brother, who is also now deceased. So none of those kids were at the stepfather's home. My brother Ronnie, who is now deceased, he was there for a short period of time, and he left. He eloped with a girl and left the house. So me and Patty were the, I don't know, almost victimized by whatever evil this was.
You mean when you moved there, Mark, did all of a sudden, when you got there, did all of a sudden you realize that something wasn't right?
Yes, I knew it was just a feeling. A lot of people know the feeling of, well, have you ever got the feeling that you're being watched? And a lot of people have gotten that, and they have no what we call paranormal or supernatural experience. But for example, me and my sister, we had a gravel driveway, and this is just one of the many examples. We were sleeping on the second floor of this old block house. By that time, I think we had gotten electricity and running water, the luxuries of life. Um,
I know, isn't that amazing that people forget that just simple things like running water, electricity,
oh yeah,
you take them for granted. Like you just take. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
it's okay. Yeah, because it's interesting you bring that up because there was a spring, a natural what they call an artesian spring where the water is coming up from the ground. It had been tested by the county where we were living. It was pure as they say, as gold. And that's where it was my job as a 6-year-old to tote enough water from that spring every day to cook with, obviously to drink with, and to bathe with. And that's a lot of buckets of water
At 6,
at 6 years old.
man, I would have went on strike. But
Well, there was not,
my dad would always get me out of strike. This was his strike move right here. That would get me in gear at 6. Wow.
6 years old. And I was also, we had a potbelly stove. That was our only heating source. And I had to chop up, break apart lumps of coal, bring in the coal buckets, stoke the fire. So I was almost like a frontiersman at the age of 6, but I loved it. I loved it. I didn't have to live in the shadow of fear like I did in the projects. Okay. So my mom and my stepfather went out, and our driveway was gravel, of course. And it was there was a mountainside on the west side of the house. And as I got older, I went up there and I hunted and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, when a car come down through there at night, and there was very few cars that come down that road, and it wasn't like it itself was a gravel road, but it was just not traveled that much. You could hear it echoing, the sound of the automobile echoing on those mountains because there was rock cliffs and stuff. So anyway, me and my sister, we go to bed as we're told to go at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever it was. And we're laying there. It's a hot summer night. And I'm turning my pillow over and over, just try to keep the cool side. I was just burning up. So, and I didn't know it, but my sister, which was straight ahead of these 13 steps that come up to the second floor, she was straight ahead in that bedroom and made an immediate right. I was in that bedroom. So I was laying there, and all of a sudden, I hear a car. I didn't hear it coming. I just heard it come onto the gravels of the driveway. And I heard a car door shut, only one. And I'm laying there real still because at that time we'd probably been in bed for an hour. I'm still not asleep. So all of a sudden, and these stairs were creaky. And when you got to the next to the last step, which would be the 12th step, it really give a lot and it creaked tremendously. So I'm laying there and all of a sudden I hear somebody coming up the steps. And I'm like, okay, I'm thinking as a child now, I'm thinking, well, I didn't hear anybody say anything. I didn't hear mom, and his name was Herb, my stepfather. Didn't hear him say anything. And now somebody's coming up the steps. What's this about? And then these footsteps got up to the 12th step, like you would just barely put your weight down on that step and then raise back off the step. Very loud creak. And all of a sudden, my sister yells out, "Mama!" And I said, "Patty," I said, "I don't know who that is, but it's not Mama." And she says, "Oh my God." She says, "Do something." So I jumped up off of my bed. And when I did, I don't know how my legs, I don't know if they were numb or what, but immediately my legs gave out on me. So when I got around the corner, we already had electricity and everything in the house, because when I tried to cut on my light, my overhead light, it just exploded. Just like you took a photograph of the old time. And there was nothing there, obviously, because there was also a stair, a light on the stairwell. Those kind of things went on and on and on. And, just before, there was just so many things happened there, Vito. I could go on and on and on about it. We could actually do another thing about what went on in that house.
Well, what was there ever, did you ever find out the history of the house?
The only thing I do know for sure about the house, it was lived in prior to my stepfather's purchase of it. I don't really know the history, but I do know that there was, that used to be a Cherokee Indian development in that area, right on top of it. And what had also happened over the years, the house was built over top of a dump. In other words, a junkyard.
A junkyard.
Junkyard. So you could go out in the yard and dig, and you get cans, when they weren't aluminum, and stuff like that all the time.
You turn on the light real quick in the middle of the night, and there'd be Red Fox standing there going, "I'll give you 5 of these and 5 of these." Man,
but there was I believe that some of the experiences I had in that house, for some reason, it's just like the movie Chucky. Did you see that movie about the doll?
Oh, I don't
Chucky?
like horror movies. I don't.
No?
I don't. I know I don't believe in ghosts and stuff, but I really hate. To this day, I haven't seen The Exorcist. I made it halfway through, and I thought, I can't watch this crap. This is
that one I never watched because I heard all the rumors. I said no.
I can't watch it.
When I heard that thing about the crucifix, that did it for me. I said, I'm not going.
Yep.
So anyway, the things that happened in the house, that's just a small example. Me and my mom and my sister were sitting in the kitchen one day, just conversing. My stepfather, thank God, was on second shift at his job, which he worked at the VFW as a bartender. That's what he did, and that's how he well expeditiously went into drinking a fifth of liquor a day and being a brutal alcoholic. But anyway, we were sitting there, and there was this hutch in the corner, and all of a sudden, it's just like something was huge, not a rat, was just taking claws and raking down the back of the cabinet. And I looked at Mom and everybody. My hair, what little I had then, stood straight up, and I said, "My God, Mom, what is that?" She says, "I don't know." She says, "Let's go over and move it out," because it stopped. The noise stopped. We moved it out, and I thought for sure there would be a mouse or something there, or claws on the back of it, because it sounded hideous. There was nothing there. Doorknobs moving, dolls that disappeared in the house. I could go on and on about things that you just absolutely would find very hard to believe.
How long were you there for?
Until I graduated high school. Yep, until I graduated high school. And there was a creek that ran in the back of the house. And here's the story I want to tell you real quick. And I know you got to do a lot of editing. But this is an important story about where my true spirituality really started. Okay. We played, the kids that, we were all poor in that neighborhood. So if somebody come with a baseball or something, it was a treat. All the kids could get down there and play in my yard, and we could play baseball or whatever. Most of the time it was softball. If you fouled to the right, the ball was certainly going to go into that creek. There was only one place to retrieve that ball, and it ran through every time. It would come down the creek about, I'd say 100 yards. And there was a big sycamore tree that had these huge branches over into the stream, over into the creek.
Right.
And you could climb down over that bank, which is about a 6-foot drop. Now I'm a little guy, right? And then these branches, you could get on the branches, and there was a whirlpool, a natural whirlpool of water there. And the ball would circle 3 times, no exceptions. On the 3rd time, it would exit out of the main stream of the rapids, and it was gone. When it fouled one day, it was my turn. We took turns going to get the ball. Well, when you went down there, nobody really could see you because you went over a little bank and then down that 6-foot drop to the tree. And I was sitting there waiting on the ball because I ran down there real quick. Here it come, and I was stretched out on a limb that I'd always been on dozens of times before. And just as the ball was approaching my hand, the limb snapped. That water in that creek then was about 7 feet deep because my stepfather had measured it. And there was a lot of fishing back then, different time. So I could not swim. When I went headfirst into that water, I began to breathe in water immediately. I was struggling, I was fighting. And as I kind of sank down toward the bottom, I looked up, and the sunlight or the light was coming through the water. And all of a sudden, this glow, this peace come over me. And I quit struggling. I said, "Well, God, I guess it's my day to die." And I no more said that. It's just like a suction sound like that. I was out on top of the bank, not climbing up the bank, coughing up water. I looked like a pump, coughing out this water. And my sister had observed me falling in from afar. I didn't know that. She's running down the bank and the yard, just screaming her head off. And she says, "My God," she says, "what are you doing? You can't swim." And I looked down, and my right hand was the ball.